What's going on YouTube? JT here, and welcome back to another edition to my Godzilla comic book reviews. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at a very long special issue, graphic novel, young adult book, whatever you want to call this thing, Godzilla Monster Island Summer Camp. This is a big, huge kind of one-shot thing. I don't know what you classify this as, like kids graphic novel, because it's bigger than your average comic book, and it's bigger than like a big anniversary one-shot. Like this, at least for my Kindle, says like 100 pages at least. And this book is written by Rosie Knight, art by Oliver Ono, and Jody Troutman is the letterer, and Nick Marino is the color assistant. This is one of the most insane Godzilla comic books I have ever read. This is definitely geared more towards younger readers. It's over the top. It also reminded me of some 1990s or like 1980s kids films, kind of elements of both eras, because there's some bits that felt a little E.T., and then there's a lot of bits that just went through all sorts of different things. You have the Captain Planet like villains. You have kids who can just know advanced technology upon just meeting it. You have the parts where they disguise their little alien or creature friends in some human disguise, and it just somehow fools everybody else. This is a very, very hokey comic book, and I kind of admire it for that. Like, I had a big smile on my face. Any comic book that has Minilla wearing a Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like disguise with a trench coat and hat gets a thumbs up in my eyes for some creativity. But yeah, this one is geared towards more younger readers. I don't see it necessarily appealing to everyone, but I enjoyed it. Like, I felt like as a kid kind of reading something like this, like with all those 90s kids films I used to watch, and something that you rent at like Mammoth Video or Family Video or Hollywood Video or one of those video stores that your parents would pick up, like, okay, here, check out this kids film. So it felt right attuned with that era. Like, some bits reminded me of Heavyweight. So the story centered around this girl named Zelda, who was ready to go to some sort of art camp. Unfortunately for her, her parents were not informed of the situation, but the camp has been taken over by some extreme sports fitness people. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of the movie Heavyweights, where it was Ben Stiller plays Tony Perkins. One of my favorite 90s films. Ben Stiller is amazing in that film if you want to check that out. But basically, like, he takes over this fat camp and tries to sell an infomercial, but it's kind of something like that, but not quite. Like, you have like evil like fitness gurus kind of taking over this camp that was supposed to be for arts and crafts, and of course the parents were not informed of this change or anything like that, but they're still going to get billed for it. It's kind of one of those weird things. Why don't they just like let them know? But it's run by this corporation known as More Incorporated, and these people are just kind of jerks, and they got some mysterious stuff going on here. So Zelda is our main character, and we have her two friends. Like, one's more into sports, one of them has like a bionic arm, and you have the crazy campers. And so Zelda doesn't really want to do running or anything like that, so she kind of goes off on her own, travels into this cave, ends up into some almost like warp zone to Monster Island, however it works, and she comes across Minilla, and then she finds some sort of magic like stick or cane or whatever allows her to kind of communicate with him, and then she just kind of hangs out with Minya. So that's always great. I like to see Minya in this capacity. Kind of makes me think of Godzilla's Revenge with Ichiro Minya, and she just kind of spends her time hanging out with this Minya. Like, they're laughing, having a good time. Minya's learning to draw too, and I don't know, I had a smile on my face reading this stuff. And of course, like, things aren't all great on Monster Island. All the sort of like mysterious earthquakes going on are causing some problems for them. I'm not sure how it works. Like, I guess it's like a warp zone to Monster Island, but it's all kind of connected. The Godzilla and all the other creatures are real in this world, but like, they're kind of mysterious. I'm not 100% sure how the mythology of it sort of works. Like, I guess it's just, you know, people live like side by side with them, and you know, some of the other characters are into Mothman and that. You get some great personality like bits from Minya, like with his facial expressions and whatnot. So the girls are going to try and figure out what's going on here. The evil camp counselors try and force them to do some other crazy obstacles. Minya can even kind of talk to her sometimes. Like, she can communicate with him, but like, it's more kind of like her internal thoughts, but sometimes it shows like one instance where he talks, and then there's another instance where it's just kind of her interpreting what he says. I kind of would have preferred if it would have just been pure dialogue from Minya, like if we're hearing it from her perspective, instead of her necessarily translating it. But Minya's in trouble. She's got to figure out what's going on. We have insane camp counselors there. We're going to put you through this death trap obstacle course, which would legitimately probably, it's a major like safety hazard. I mean, they have like pickaxes kind of swinging around and whatnot. It's an all around huge death trap, and they just kind of leave them there. Like I said, this feels like a 1990s crazy kids film with the bad guys just doing all sorts of insane stuff for money and all that. Like, I don't know. It kind of took me back to that era. And then we have the evil corporation following them around, and these are pure Captain Planet villains. We have Ebra, who shows up, Kamakuris, Minya's there. They do find an excuse to put him into a disguise like he's Raphael from Ninja Turtles, and I kind of love that. Any Godzilla comic book that has Minya walking around like that is kind of peak. They even like dress him up in various fashion attires, like he's like Smokey the Bear with his bandana. Eventually, we do find out what the evil people are doing. Turns out they're doing fracking. That's right, the all-around evil stuff known as fracking. And if you don't know what fracking is, they explain it for you, and they emphasize how evil fracking is, like, through a good chunk of the comic book, through the rest of it. But yeah, that little death trap that they had for kids, it's like an obstacle course, really is doubling as a fracking machine. So they bought this camp, and they're just trying to frack, and they need Godzilla to stop them. And then, of course, because, of course, they stumble upon this sort of like secret lair here into these cave systems, and then they find these, like, little mech suits or whatever, and the kids just know how to pilot them, because, of course, they do. They don't even know them for 5 seconds, and guess what? They just have all the knowledge to pilot this stuff. They find Godzilla, and Godzilla's definitely more friendly, working side by side with them, and he destroys this thing, and you know, the Monster Island is kind of safe at this point, but then the evil corporation's like, we saw what you kids were doing. Ha ha ha. You're in some big trouble now. Ha ha. We're evil. We're mustache twirling evil. And we're like, we're going to stop your fracking. Like I said, it feels like a 1990s kids movie. We're like, we're going to stop them from cutting down the trees or something like that. And I just kind of chuckled at it. It just kept getting crazier and crazier. Mothra, of course, shows up, and then eventually becomes this wholesome summer camp where kids are kind of hanging out with monsters and whatnot. And that's basically the story in a nutshell. I mean, you can check out the whole thing and read it, but I definitely enjoyed myself reading this thing. Again, it's not something that's going to be really for everyone, because of the book is geared towards much younger viewers, and some people may find it like, oh, come on, like with this whole, like, the kids able to kind of just know all this technology and all that going on, the mustache twirling evil corporate villains, like, that feel straight out of Captain Planet. If you're into that sort of thing, then you're definitely gonna have some, like, this book will have some appealing stuff to you. If you found that stuff obnoxious or annoying, I can't see you really being into this sort of thing, but I always have a soft spot for that sort of stuff. Like, it kind of made me chuckle just how, like, crazy wacky this book just kept going and going. And like I said, any Godzilla comic book that has Minya in a disguise looking like Raphael from the Ninja Turtles movie gets a thumbs up in my book simply for that. And I always like seeing, like, the Minya Godzilla. I'm one of the people who loves Godzilla's Revenge. I know that's, to some people, it's like blasphemous. How can you like that movie? It's the worst of them all. No, I'd rather watch Godzilla's Revenge over a lot of other Godzilla movies, to be honest. So there's elements of that. There's some Captain Planet elements in here. A lot of 90s kids bits. Like, some of it kind of reminded me a little bit of E.T. And of course, you know, just kids stopping corporations from, you know, destroying the environment and whatnot. That's stuff that's been present in the Godzilla series. Look at the 90s Mothra vs. Godzilla film and the bad guys in there. But here, these bad guys are, like, there's no, like, sympathetic characteristics to them whatsoever. They are pure mustache twirling, and I kind of have a soft spot. Like, if you're gonna have villains like this, make them as cartoony and as ridiculous as possible. The fact that this evil corporation decides, you know what, we're gonna buy a summer camp for this one place to do fracking. We can do it anywhere else, but we're gonna do this elaborate scheme where we make it just some extreme sports camp for kids, and we're gonna build some sort of giant death trap machine that's like an obstacle course, but also doubles as a fracking device. I mean, that's totally insane, but it kind of made me chuckle. Like, you know what? A for effort and creativity for the lengths they went in this thing. And the artwork itself, I really did kind of enjoy this style. There's a lot of personality showcased with Minya, especially, and, you know, the little kids in that there too. And having Godzilla stories told from, like, kids' perspectives also kind of feels a little bit reminiscent of maybe more like a Gamera film or something. But it kind of made me think of Godzilla's Revenge, which I think is a very underrated Godzilla film. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here. It's cool to see Mothra. It's good to see Godzilla. He's drawn kind of well in this style. And if you want something that's definitely geared more towards younger readers and something that just gets crazier and crazier and crazier as it goes about with its story, then this is the Godzilla comic book for you. I'm recommending it for myself, but I don't know if it'll necessarily be for everyone. But there's a lot of comic in this thing, so it definitely takes a minute to read this one because there's a lot of stuff going on there, and you got the character elements in there too. Some of it may feel a little bit Captain Planet preachy at times, but again, it feels like a 1990s, something right out of the 90s with that sort of like type of like content we'd see in movies and stuff and whatnot. So I had a smile on my face. It kind of was a nice throwback to that era, which again wasn't for everybody, but because I used to grow up watching sort of that stuff, I have kind of a soft spot for that sort of line of stuff. But yeah, at least we got some interesting stuff with Minilla. Like, it was cool to see him draw and just kind of like wearing a disguise and whatnot. So I don't know, it was kind of adorable. I'm a sucker for this sort of stuff, but I know going to that this is not going to appeal necessarily to like everyone who's kind of older. It's definitely something more geared towards younger readers, and I think it's good for younger kids. So, and you know, grown man children such as myself. So, and people who never grew up like me. So yeah, I enjoyed myself reading this thing. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, but for me, this was definitely worth a read, and I'm probably just going to go ahead and read it again. So it's definitely a very different feeling Godzilla book. So especially with the story that they went with. Monster Island Summer Camp sounds awesome. I wish I could go to it and just kind of hang out with giant monsters. And, you know, like getting to see the other, like, monsters, too, showcased in a more kind of positive light. Like, they're actually kind of hanging out with the kids and letting them ride on their backs and stuff, too. I'm like, that to me is kind of cool. I don't really get to see that with Evera or Kamacuras all that much. Or, I mean, Mothra, you see it, Minilla just kind of hanging out with everybody. Like, that's fun to me. Like, that's something kind of lighthearted and charming, and I kind of want to see more of that sort of stuff with the IP. So this one gets a thumbs up for me. I understand it won't be for everyone, but I had a smile on my face. So if you read or you have any interest in this book, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. I'd be curious to know what other people thought of this Godzilla comic book graphic novel, and whatever they want to call it. And yeah, post your comments down below. Thumbs up for me. I had fun with it. And I look forward to seeing what other Godzilla IDW related stuff they got going on there. So I also I'll leave a link in the description. I posted an entire thread on my Let's Talk Godzilla Twitter page of all the different comics that IDW has launched and pretty much their order of release since they started relaunching the books back in 2021, was it? Yeah, I think it was 2021, 2022, when they started relaunching their titles and whatnot. So if you want to know all the books that they've released and kind of order of release generally, you can go ahead and check out that thread. I'll leave a link in the description below. So if you want to check out all the stuff, I mean, there's a large variety of different titles going on with IDW and their Godzilla lineup. At least they're doing some interesting stuff with the IP. I have such a variety to choose from, and I'm enjoying that. I've had so many unique Godzilla stories, and I would have never expected Godzilla Monster Island Summer Camp. You're not going to get something like this in a movie generally. If they did find a way to make it in the movie, I'd be shocked. So it's cool to get this type of Godzilla story from time to time. Just something kind of different with it, and it felt kind of fresh. So I appreciate that. Yeah, thumbs up for me. Go check this thing out. I don't care if you're older or younger, just go ahead and give it a read. All right, well, I've rambled on long enough. Hope y'all are having a good time. This will conclude the comic book reviews for this week. Not sure what's next on the horizon, but I had fun with this one. This was a fun one to talk about. It got so wacky as I was reading it, and it's nice to kind of have that smiling over the top ridiculousness with the Godzilla comic book from time to time. So all right, well, I've rambled on long enough. As always, take care now. Bye bye then. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.